stay a while on women. Tomorrow, Saturday, July 31, is Pan-African Women's Day. It's set aside to honor and celebrate not only remarkable achievements of African women, but also to advocate gender equality in Africa. It is also a day for women in Africa to reaffirm their commitment to Pan-Africanism and gender equality. This year's commemoration is under the theme, African Women in Arts, Culture and Heritage. Let's get more on this celebration. Joining me via Zoom for a conversation is the director of WILDAF Ghana, Melody Dake. Thank you so much for joining the program. And it's a very exciting conversation to have with you, also considering the story we just heard before. Let's talk about the significance of this day for us as African women.
Good morning to you and good morning to your viewers, and thank you for having me on your show. Pan-African Women's Day is a day set aside by the African Union to recognize the contributions of African women to the African society, and also to draw attention to the issues of gender equality and women's empowerment. As you know, African women contribute so much in diverse ways to African economies and to other areas. However, these contributions receive limited recognition and attention. So to set aside a day to recognize that, I think that it's important. And it's also good that we give visibility to this day so that we can appreciate how much women in Africa contribute to the development of the continent.
Great. So what are we doing here in Ghana, particularly to commemorate the day?
Whereas I cannot speak for others or for the state, I do believe that they will have, or they have, their events or activities lined up to commemorate the day. For us within the women's rights space, being on your show, me being on your show this morning and speaking with you on the subject is one of the ways that we are commemorating this day. We are trying to give some visibility to this day and to draw attention to what it means for us here in Ghana and also in Africa. I do believe we have other activities lined up. We're also looking at creating awareness within the social media space, again, to give some visibility to the day.
And so, women in arts, culture, and heritage. It's quite an interesting topic, if you may, because usually women in arts, especially when it comes to the creatives, are usually branded in a certain way, and usually not seen in positive light in terms of their contribution to women's development. How do you think that this subject helps to promote them in a positive sense, and also generally bring a certain feel or likingness to women on the continent?
What I'll say to that is that I think that for the African Union to recognize the contribution of the arts and culture to our development, it means that we all do appreciate what goes on in terms of persons and women who are into the arts and who work around the issues of culture and heritage. I think that what people don't agree with is when we use such mediums to objectify women, for instance. But at the end of the day, when you read the theme in all of its context completely, you do realize that the end goal is to ensure that persons or the contributions in the arts and culture space end up, contributing to the social and economic development on Africa. So the end goal is economic development.
Talking about economic development, we have heard within our space discussions about women in entertainment and how many of them are exploited. Sometimes it becomes more of a man's world. It's difficult for women to thrive. It's difficult for them to manage the other demands of being a woman and surviving in an industry like that. As we commemorate women in arts, culture, and heritage tomorrow, what would you like to see differently being done for women in these sectors?
I think that I will look at it generally in terms of uh, women having access to and control over resources. So it could be resources within the arts and culture space. It could be access to resources in other areas, such as productive resources, access to capital, access to credit, technology, skills, training and apprenticeship, access to participation in the labor market and entrepreneurship opportunities and public services within those spaces. I think that a lot of things are being done, but more can be done. You look at the consortium on whose behalf I'm speaking, for example, some of the things that we are doing under an initiative that we have recently started. It is not within the arts and culture space, but I think that it is also important. It is within the cocoa and the share value chains where we are trying to use things like legal literacy to reduce legal barriers that fetters women's access to and control over resources within those spaces, contributing to law and policy reform. Again, on access to and control over resources and economic empowerment generally. And so I think that these kinds of initiatives can, be replicated within the arts and culture space. I think that, again, within that space, we can look at engaging families and communities to redistribute unpaid care work at home so that we can free time for women and girls to embark on productive and economically empowering ventures, such as in the art space and also in other areas, such as agriculture and trade, among other things.
All right.
So these are some of the things that we, are working on in our current initiative, which we have aptly named Women's Economic Advancement for Collective Transformation. And it's a collective effort by a number of organizations such as World of Ghana, Oxfam in Ghana, Oxfam in Quebec, Share Network, Tunteya Women's Association, Send Ghana, Viamo Technologies, NORSAC, and Friends of the Nations.
Okay.
So I think that.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. That's Director of World of Ghana, Melody Dake. That's all time will allow us. But we really appreciate and enjoyed your conversation. And to you and all the workers at World of, thank you for doing this for women.